Hi friends and fellow woodturners, Richard Ford here, coming to you from Nova Scotia, Canada. Back in December 2011 I had a whole bunch of kit pens to make, and so I took the opportunity to document each step. There's 5 steps, and so there's 5 little videos. Here they are. I hope you enjoy them.
Safety. It's a big thing in the workshop. If you don't feel safe doing something, or you just don't feel comfortable, don't do it. You're the only person who can keep you safe. And if you don't do it, no one else can.
Good day. Welcome to my workshop. Over the next several days I have to make a number of these pens. It's a slimline design pen, and because I have to make quite a few of them, I thought I would take this opportunity to make a video of the 5 sort of phases that there are, 5 stages for making a pen such as this. Now this is oak, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this on the video, but it's old oak. It's oak that's about 70 years old. So basically you can't buy this wood today unless you recover it from, some old building or something. And you can see that on the end of the grain there's some phenomenal kind of highlighted goldeny sort of areas. Really beautiful. So it's quite unique. And so the first phase is the one that I will talk about today, and that is the sawing of pen blanks. Now, a lot of turners make pen blanks, and you can get your material. This is the oak that has been sawn on a bandsaw for this particular job, and these pieces here are approximately 5/8 square. Yes, 5/8 square and 5 inches long. Now you can also purchase from various stores and pen supply places blanks such as this one, which is 3/4 of an inch square. Now it's bigger because it will allow you to make a big fat pen if you want. This is a piece of red palm, and it makes quite a very nice pen. You can also buy acrylics, which come in about the same sort of sizes. Here, 3/4 inches square, 5 1/4 inches long. These are. Yeah, it's 5 1/4 inches long too. So that's a pretty standard size blank that you can buy. Here's another one. This is a piece of walnut, 3/4 square, 5 1/4 long. So these were purchased from pen blank suppliers. This is a piece of countertop material, Syrian or Korean or those sort of things. Now this, because the material is only 1/2 inch thick, I've cut this in 1/2 inch widths. Or in fact, a friend of mine cut this in 1/2 inch widths and gave me these, so we end up with a 1/2 inch square. So you can see that this is 5/8, this is 3/4. Now depending on the pen you're going to make, the one that I have in mind to make, I have to make a number of them, is this one. And you can see that in order to make it from this material, it is big enough, but you would have to be very precise in drilling your hole in the center here to make sure that you have material all around it. This on mine is 7/16 diameter here. So you can see with 1/2 inch there is very little material to spare. There's only a 32nd aside. The drilling would have to be very accurate to be able to produce this pen. It doesn't have to be this large. It's just that's a size I like. It feels very comfortable in my hand, and other people seem to like it too. So it's very comfortable to make this pen from this oak here. We've got lots of room the hole can be off a little bit and we can still make the pen. It would be very easy to make it from this commercial size blanks, but the current objective, current job, is to make it from this oak here, which is 5/8 square. Okay, so having got your blank, wherever you got it from, whether you sawed it yourself or whether you bought it, the next job is to saw it to length into 2 pieces. Now, depending on what kind of pen you're going to make, this is being made from a slimline pen kit. And the slimline pen kit has 2 brass tubes which are the same length. And this piece, which is 5 inches long, is plenty long enough, as you can see, for the 2 pieces of the pen. So I'll show you how I cut these. I like to leave about 1/4 of an inch, the piece about 1/4 inch longer than the tube. This way, when you put the tube in, as long as you go in below the surface, you could go in 1/8 of an inch and it would be centered. So my objective here is to cut these about 1/4 inch longer than the tube. Now, I have a little sled here that I've made for my bandsaw. You can see it. It's a very simple thing. It has a runner and a wooden stop, both just glued on the bottom of this little piece of plywood. Whoops. And that runs backwards and forwards and just till it gets to the stop, and then it won't go any further. And I've also put a line here and a line here that is the length of the tube from where the blade cuts. So I have a guide as to the length I require for the tube. Now, as I said, I really would like to have this about 1/4 of an inch longer than the tube, so I do that by eye. When I'm sawing, I can easily line up the line here and just give it by eye another 1/4 of an inch and cut it. Now, a few words about the bandsaw. Bandsaw in my shop is the most dangerous tool I have in my shop. This blade is not friendly. It's very, very sharp. It cuts very efficiently and very quickly, and it will cut through your finger or your arm just as quickly as it will cut through this little piece of wood. It is not friendly. It is something to be aware of. It is something to be careful about. And you should always have your guide down as low as possible so that you expose the least amount of blade. The other advantage to having a sled is that you're not pushing behind something to cut on the bandsaw. Never ever push with your fingers on something that you want to cut on the bandsaw. If you have to push this, have a block or something to push with. But better still, have something like this sled that is going to do the pushing for you, and you just place your piece here and cut through, and you're not behind this pushing on the blade. Wherever possible, if you have to do it by hand, hold behind the blade and push. So you're basically pulling it through the blade. This way, if you slip, or if the part cuts through quickly, you are not going to fall into the blade, because it will absolutely ruin your job. You get blood all over the place, and you can't get that blood out of the wood. So don't do it. If you're going to cut them, it's very simple to make a little sled like this, and it makes the job very easy. Okay, here's another little tip. Oftentimes with wood, you're not sure if there's a little split in it or not. This is very old wood, as I say. It's about 70 years old, very dry. It was come from some oak flooring in an old building. So when I was cutting this from longer lengths, what I did, I cut a little thin sliver from the side, and what that allows you to do, I'll just cut a little piece off here now to show you. The other advantage of the sled is, just as I've done here, I've pulled this back out the way for me to pick this up. So if you cut a little thin sliver of the wood you're consuming, you're going to use, even whether it's a bowl or whatever it is, it allows you to then try and bend that piece, and if there is in fact a crack in it, it will break right there. It will immediately snap off there. So it tells you that this is a very sound little piece of wood, and I did do that test when I was sawing this from longer lengths, so I know that this wood is pretty good. So I think now I will just there's one other thing I want to show you. I think everybody tells you to do this, but when you're sawing wood, and this oak, the figure is pretty much the same all the way through, but if you had something with some particularly nice figure in it, you would want to be able to mount it when you're turning it so that you can line up the grain and the figure in the wood. So it's a useful way to do that is to just, what I do, I like to write numbers on it. I don't put lines because two of them could look the same. So I would write a number, in this case 56, 56. So now when I've cut this in two pieces, I can put those two pieces back together, and any grain or any special figuring I can match up in the pen because I'll turn it with those two together. Okay, so I'll put this end over about 1/4 inch, give myself about 1/4 inch, and now same thing here, about 1/4 inch. Yeah, simple as that. That's the first operation. So you can see this is a very quick operation. Very quickly you'll have a lot of blanks. You can see how fast the blade cuts, so be aware of that. Be careful with the blade. Okay, so as I proceed through the different operations, we'll have the sawing, the drilling, gluing, turning, and then assembly. Those are the operations that I will try and make a small segment for each one, and I hope that you enjoy them. And I always find when I watch somebody else's videos or methods or demonstrations, there's always something I can learn from them, and I think that's what I really like about little videos on YouTube and what have you, is that there's always something to be learned, even if it's learning what not to do. You may see something, you say, that's a silly thing, so don't do it. You'll have learned something. And on the other hand, you may see something, you say, oh, that's not a bad idea, and you may improve on it or use it as it is. Anyway, this is the first section. I'm going to end it here. Thank you for joining me in my shop.